Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ian Gamesmith. I'm Ian. My pronouns are they, them. We are here with the third part of Iron Edda Accelerated Mini Campaign run by the designer themselves. So we're here. It's been a couple of sessions that we had to miss for various life reasons, which, is going to happen from time to time. But we're back and we're super excited to be tying a bow on this story. So, why don't we go right into introductions? I think I've done counterclockwise the last few times, so I'm actually going to start with you, Adira.
Okay, cool. So I'm Adira Slattery. Hello. I am a game designer, and I live in Chicago. And we just finished up. I was on One with Hollow White season 2, which is wrapped up. But we're still sort of doing some other content-y stuff. We have some stretch goals that we're fulfilling, some episodes with Alan Linick, things like that. Yeah. Nice. So I'm still doing more One with Hollow Eyes stuff. Just wrote a game for the Eli Jam, which is a Passover themed game jam.
Awesome.
You don't got to be a Jew to do it. So make your cool Passover themed games.
Is that up on?
Fun, and I really enjoyed making my game for it. It's about golems. It's fun.
Awesome. Is that up on the internet somewhere?
Yeah, it's at adira.itch.io.
Awesome. That is gonna go in the chat and into my bookmark bar for later. Donna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Hi, I'm Donna. Also got by Denicia. If anybody ever wondered how that was pronounced. I work in games. I work for Catan Studio. So I work for Asmodee all around. But my passion and my love is the convention that I run called OrcaCon, which I hope you will all go to someday. It's up here in the Seattle area, and we're focused on diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. So I am really excited because I rarely get to play games because I work full time, and then I do a con full time, and I travel for work. So I'm happy to be playing a game. Yay. In case anybody's looking for more players for their online game.
Yeah, Donna got to play in a D&D one shot I did for the Uncaged anthology, which was a blast.
It was a hoot.
A couple weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. Tracy, tell us about yourself.
Hey, my name is Tracy Barnett. My pronouns are they and them, and I am the person who wrote this here game that we're playing tonight. I do a lot of other stuff. I write games, I freelance. I have 2 podcasts that I do. Fortunately, I am lucky to have someone else that edits them. Do an actual play podcast, do a podcast called Another Blank Page with the mighty and powerful Kate Bowie, and am working on putting together a small games anthology with 4 amazing writers. Will likely be the first of a series of those. We'll see how that goes.
Awesome.
But yeah, and I'm excited to be here to get our 3rd session underway and figure out how this story is going to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. I am on the cusp of putting together a couple of things. I don't have the next thing to announce yet, but keep your eye on Twitter because I have a couple of fun things in the pipe that I can't wait to announce. So I think I don't have any other major announcements. So if you want, Tracy, I'll just hand the mic right back to you and we can get recapping and get into this thing.
Okay, so we have a holdfast. We have characters. We'll start with the characters. First of all, we have Lauren Hudson, who is played by Ian. And Lauren's high concept is newly come to the mantle of seer. Lauren is a seer, which means he can do all kinds of amazing magical effects. He can influence people to follow his will, but people will start to mistrust him very quickly if he abuses that power. His trouble is he's self-conscious. He belongs to the clan of the Hammer, and his sacred item is an unhealing mark of the seer. Congratulations, Odin's power comes with a spear in the side. We have Ogeti Sodotir, who is played by Denicia. Ogeti is a rune scribe who is a protector of the Skaldic Hearth. for all that has proven to be effective so far. No offense to your character, but like, there's some drama.
Not it.
Ogedi's trouble is the fire of my anger is unquenchable, which stands to reason because she is part of the clan of the dragon. And her sacred item is a tattooed rune of Isa, which means ice, frost, and death. And thirdly, last definitely not least, we have Rena Willowbonded, who is played by Adira. Adira is an elf who is a fresh envoy of Alfheim. Willowbonded means that she is bound to the spirit of a tree, much like the bone bonded in the game would be bound to the bones of a dead giant. She is bound to the spirit of a tree itself. Her trouble is I can only see my love through the ivy branches. So she's got feelings for someone and she can't get to them because there's a bone bond in the way. Her tree bond is splinters in my soul because she and her tree, Bazakor, don't always see eye to eye. Bazakor's high concept is ancient oak. Bazakor's worldly desire, which is the thing that the bearer, the mortal bearer, has to indulge in, so the big, massive powers can be used. That worldly desire is to hold living heat, which happened in the first session a little bit. There might have been some absorption of some blood into the skin of one Rena Willowbonded. We'll neither confirm nor deny these rumors. Check the rags.
Maybe a bit.
And Bazakor's approach, which every giant gets a unique approach, is stiff. So Bazakor does not bend gracefully. And Rena's sacred item is her mother's stone seal, which is very interesting and important because it was established through play, which is the best way to establish things, that Rena's mother is the mother huntress, not just of Rena, but of elven kind. And the mother huntress had been bound away by the goddess Hel, who is a Norse deity, because the elves and the people of this holdfast and Hel all sort of made a deal that, Hel was going to bind and temper the power of the mother huntress because she was immensely powerful. How, we do not know. Why it was uncontained, also as of yet unknown. But Hel was going to temper this power, and in exchange, Hel would gain a mouthpiece in the world, a high priest, if you will. And that mantle was to be passed to the Jarl of this holdfast, which, by the way, is called Evilheimer. And the Jarl is not having it. Her grandmother or grandfather, 2 generations ago, the Jarl made this deal, and now it is coming to rest upon the current Jarl of the Holdfast, which is not going so well so far because the deal was supposed to be fulfilled, I think, tonight or tomorrow. For fun, let's just say tonight since it's our last session. So Hel is on the verge of cursing this holdfast. The dead do not stay dead because Hel is displeased with all of this. The fields of the holdfast run red. A promising young skald was murdered during a big battle with the dwarves. Ogedi, one way or another, for reasons as of yet unknown, but prepare yourself for that to be what we jump off with, Denicia, is responsible for the death of this skald. We'll get to why we're going to jump off with that when we recap the rest of the stuff. But the elves are offering their help against the dwarves in exchange for the humans fulfilling their deal. The elves want the mother huntress freed. Simple. It's a deal. You fulfill it. That's what elves do. And then, of course, because there always has to be just one more thing, there are traders from the Desert Brand in the Holdfast, and they have weapons that were crafted of a strange metal that is glowing a sickly green color. And your eyes kind of slip off of them when you try to look at them. They're very strange and very weird, and we don't know what's going on with those yet either. So, that's the situation in the Holdfast. It occurs to me that what might be interesting to do, since we've had a couple of sessions already, and you all have now had some experiences with one another as characters, to sort of reaffirm how y'all feel about each other, would be to redo our group aspects, because those can be redone at the end of every session. We establish them during character creation, so we have some sort of baseline of those relationships. But now that we've had some events take place, we've had, the elf and Ogeti go to the seer for help. We've had Rena take the cloth from the wound on the seer's side and go outside and basically stand in the middle of the street and let her giant absorb the body heat from it and also the blood. You all fought side by side, or at least in common cause, against the dwarven destroyers that attacked your holdfast in the second session. One of those dwarven destroyers enacted the portal opening to Svartalfheim and pulled a bunch of dwarven metal. So now there's this massive construct outside of your holdfast made of dwarven metal, which creepy and freaky. But you've had some time together. So if you all look at the third slide on our sheet there, you can see what the previous group aspects were. And then we can think about for a little bit who your characters are, what they have seen during the previous session, and you can think about a new connection that you might have formed. And much like we did it in the first place, we will let that first person sort of speak up and proceed with the connections from there, if that all sounds good to everyone.
Sure.
So yeah, go ahead and take a look. For those who are watching along, I will read off these the original group aspects here real quick, while our players sort of ponder their connections to everyone else. So Lauren Hodson, the seer, his group aspect was, I know why Ogeti let Bronwyn die, which is very interesting. He knows that information, but it has not yet been revealed to anyone. So that's pretty cool. Ogeti's group aspect was, I'm working with Rena to fulfill our duty, because the vow that the Jarl's ancestors made has to be fulfilled one way or another. And Rena's connection to Lurin is that Lurin is her political connection to the Holdfast. Because Rena was an envoy of Alfheim, but had not had a chance to get her feet wet, so to speak. Lurin was her in. So yeah. Do any of the three of you have thoughts about a rewritten group aspect for one of the other two characters?
I have a thought. I think Lurin might believe that Rena is their only hope at this point. Like, if we can't get what we need to do done through the elves, then we're pretty much up Schitt's Creek. So I think that he is very invested in Rena and swaying the elves through her.
Rena, are you comfortable with that connection?
Sure.
Wonderful. So I'm just deleting the old aspects there, and Lurin, if you would like to write that in under group aspect.
Sure.
That, because we only have 3 players, establishes our order for the others. So Rena, your connection will be to Ogeti, and Ogeti, your connection will be to Lurin.
Okay.
So Rena, what are you thinking about Ogeti at this point in time?
So we just saw Ogeti do some pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that dead guy just came back, though.
That's Bronwyn.
That was a thing.
Yeah. For reference, that resurrection's a strong word. That return.
That was Lauren's doing. Yeah.
That was Lauren's doing. However, we ended the previous session with Bronwyn turning to Ogeti, pointing at her and saying, "Why did you let me die?" So that was sort of our cliffhanger moment there.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. So.
Is there a general I mean, generally thinking elves and undead things in most mythologies are not, like fast friends. So that carry true here as well.
Yeah, it given that the elves largely associate themselves with things that are living and have a spark of actual life to them, call it a soul, call it whatever you will. I, in general, they don't like take lightly to Draugr, the physical form of the dishonored dead. Those who have not returned to their proper or not have gone on to their proper afterlife. Um, I would I would let Rena make her own interpretation of such things.
Sure.
Like if you are comfortable with that or not, Rena, depending on how you feel. Um,
Yeah. So I think what Rena is mostly thinking about is that things have gotten a little complicated. There's this dwarf portal, there's this zombie, there's like all of these things that are going on when Rena would just sort of like somebody to assume the mantle and just fix this problem. So I think Rena, while like Lurin was Rena's like political in, he doesn't really have the sort of like wherewithal or oomph to like follow through.
Legit.
So
yeah, no, it is legit. He has one power he could do, but he has not done it yet. Yeah, that makes total sense.
yeah, Rena wants Ogeti to just like help to just untangle this mess. So to phrase that as an aspect would be Rena maybe Ogeti should cut the knot.
I was just thinking Ogeti should use her sword on this knot.
Yeah. Or ice.
Yeah. Sword of ice, whatever.
Ice, whatever.
Ogeti, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So then, Rena, if you would like to write that aspect in, and then Ogeti, what are your current thoughts and feelings about Lurin?
I'm thinking that I know he's kind of in over his head at the moment, and so with what I know and what he knows, I think at this point he might actually. I kind of trust him not to say anything until, or get in the way of what we know. So I'm more confident that he's not just gonna go out there and blah.
I'm confident that Lurin won't fuck this up.
Yes.
Cool. Would you like to write that in?
Sure.
Wonderful. That gives us some fresh takes on how everyone feels about everybody else. If we flip over to slide 5 here, we can see our current sort of setup that we have going on with some aspects that are on this slide. So there was some battlefield preparedness that was created to help everyone be ready for all of this. There are the two top aspects that are sort of above this entire thing of hell's foreboding and creeping weirdness, we have an ancient hedgerow that was always there. Why? When has there never been a hedgerow in front of the holdfast? Thanks to our Seer Lurin. And some ice that was placed across everything by Ogeti, and the hearth over there. So, Ogeti, you asked a question in chat to which I do not have the answer at hand, unfortunately.
It's okay. My papers were catified, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking questions. Because I don't have access to them anymore.
The first set of notes that I took mysteriously vanished from my computer, so I had to rebuild things from watching the previous YouTube streams, which you can find on Ian's YouTube channel.
It's okay.
We'll just go. I have sort of a defart name. Yes, a defart name. It stinks. I have a default name for the Jarl, which is Elsabet. So let's just go with that.
Sure.
Because I know that she was female, but that's all that I remember at this point in time.
Cool.
So Jarl Elsabet has refused to take on the mantle of hell, and in fact, I believe so. It's Ogeti and Lurin and Rena. There is still one invocation on the ice. Should that come up in this scene, that's what the F for fate point is. And S, I believe, is the leader of. Oh, it's the Scalds in general, who are all over there. None of that really matters at this exact moment in time, because. Rena, you summoned Bazakor, I believe, correct? Mm-hmm. So you are still wrapped up in the branches and leaves of your mighty oak. Mm-hmm. And Lurin, you're standing there in the ancient hedgerow that has always been there, because of course it's always been there. Mm-hmm. Looking at this thing that you inadvertently did when you plucked on the strands of fate, you heard the voice come out of this Draugr, and I think things click into place for you, like as soon as the question is asked.
Yeah,
you know this is Bronwyn, that you somehow brought back from whatever space she was in before, and she is staring down Ogeti right now. Since we've sort of started this from your point of view, what I'd like to do, just because I don't want to drop you all in too cold, is so Bronwyn asked Ogeti a question at the end of the last session. Why did you let me die? Mm-hmm. To give Denicia some time to think about how she's going to respond to that question, I want to know what this scene looks like to the other two of you. So, like, what do you see? What are you sensing? What are you picking up in this moment, right? This tense, oh, fuck, what's happening moment. What's the most apparent stuff to you? Which will then hopefully help you inform whatever you choose to do next. And then we'll cut over to Ogeti to see what happens. If that works for everybody.
Sure. So Bronwyn, like, toppled the Dwarven Destroyer? Is that true?
Mm-hmm. I
and
believe
is
so.
it, like, out of commission? Like, did Bronwyn kind of...
It is out of commission, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, still that portal thing now.
Yeah, there is a massive construct of silvery dwarven metal. Like, imagine if T-1000 from Terminator 2 was composed of, like, weird geometric shapes and was about 4 times the size that he was in the movie and had also exploded. That's sort of what is going on. There is an odd, almost organic look to it, right? The way that ferroliquid can look if a magnet is applied to it, right, like iron filings in a thick oil, but it is not as symmetrical or as fractal as that. There's a lot more chaos to it. Um, there is a if one were to pause this moment in time and have time to compare Rena's tree, Bazakor, and this structure, you might find passing resemblances between the two, but I think an elf would take exception to that, and so would a dwarf.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, Lurin, what is the Dwarven Destroyer is down and dead, at finally at the hands of Bronwyn. This massive structure is now outside of both the ice field and the ancient hedgerow, and I'm going to actually change the battlefield aspect on our little sheet here to Dwarven structure, because the battlefield's less important now. So what are your initial impressions of this? Like in that moment,
Right. I
right
think,
after the question, what are you seeing and feeling?
so Lurin was just scrambling for a solution to this Dwarven destroyer that was bearing down on the holdfast, and kind of blindly plucked at fate, and feels now like they may have just traded one problem for another now that Bronwyn is standing there accusing Ogeti. I mean, they had their plates full already, and he's, I think, kind of desperately trying to figure out if there's a way to unpluck that particular thread. Like, yeah, and I
I'm
think
smiling
that
because I like I like that I like that idea.
Like, whoops.
So essentially, if I'm boiling this down too far, your first thought is, oh shit.
I think that's a fair representation.
Okay, excellent. Rena, what is your sort of impression of this scene, this moment?
Why? Just another thing? Why?
Well,
Like, there's portal, there's all these things. Why? Like, just smash this Draugr and move on with our lives.
Okay. And Ogeti,
yes.
Bronwyn, the person under your charge, the person you are responsible for protecting, is standing in front of you and has asked you that question. Why did you let me die? How do you respond?
So your mother would do her duty.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think in that moment, Rena, you said your impulse was to eliminate the Draugr and move on, right?
Yeah. Now,
Is that something you actively wish to pursue?
so I feel like Bazakor probably is to pursue this, and I'm not sure if Rena does any longer.
Okay.
Mm.
Would you accept a fate point for Bazakor just to act out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. Then I am going to compel Splinters in my soul.
Yeah.
So you can add another fate point to your docket over there on the third slide, and you feel like there was a moment earlier in one of the previous sessions where one of the splinters sort of relaxed, right, and you felt the cessation of pain from a spot that you had just sort of gotten used to hurting.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you like sort of mentally start to stand down, you feel the ancient power that is Bazakor surge forward, and you feel a single splinter, one of the ones that's been there, the one that has been there the longest, right? Because it's like Bazakor's presence is that main thing, and then every little thing about Bazakor that's different is another little pinprick, right? The main one, the knife in your heart, right, that is Bazakor, twists. And as you sort of gasp in pain and like recognition of how powerful this being actually is, everyone else sees Rena and Bazakor just pick up a foot and step directly down on Bronwyn.
Oh my god.
When the foot lands, it's like a tree trunk with roots landing on the ground. And Getty, you're right there. This is happening directly in front of you. This is like there are roots on either side of you. And you see the roots flex just a bit. Rena, you feel the tree equivalent of someone like stomping on a bug and twisting their heel. But since it's an ancient oak, there's not that much flex to it.
Yeah.
So you feel like, and in fact, the foot doesn't even move. Bazakor just took a single step and is standing there because tree.
Yeah.
Who does what in response to that?
I stand my ground.
Okay.
I turn to see if Elsabet is on the battlefield. Is that the Jarl? Is
that's the Jarl? She is nowhere to be found.
Huh. Okay.
And there are obviously bunches of other people around, right? The Holdfast mobilized for this fight. So there are a lot of people watching right now. And as you look around, did you take Eyes of the Raven by chance?
I did.
Excellent. I thought you had. So even if you, like, because your Raven, I assume, has been circling the battlefield. If you would like to, you've got two options here. I can just give you information of what you sort of see passively through your own senses and those of the Raven, or you can choose an approach and make a roll to try and get specific information.
Do I need to make a roll to use Eyes of the Raven, or is that?
No. It's the quality of information that you can get. Because you can either just take a quick glance, or you can commit to focusing on this.
Yeah.
And get more information, possibly.
Yeah, I want to know if Elsabet saw that and what her reaction is, if anything.
Excellent. Please make a roll. What approach are you going to use?
Assume that would be focus.
Sure, that works for me. The difficulty you're looking for is a 3.
Okay. I got 2 in focus, and I got 2 ups, 2 downs.
So you're
1 short.
Yep. So you got a 2. So you can choose to fail, or you can succeed at a cost, or you can. I would say you can invoke an aspect and spend a fate point, but you have no fate points right now.
Yeah, I've pushed my fate pretty hard already.
Yeah. So would you like to succeed at a cost or fail?
I think I'll just fail. I think that.
Okay. Yeah. So there's so much chaos around. You don't see the Jarl. You do know that she's not on the battlefield, but you have no idea where she is or where she's gone to.
Okay.
And there are people who are beginning to shout for her, to sort of take charge of this situation back at the Holdfast. But it's not happening, because she does not seem to be present.
All right.
Rena, what are you doing? Now that you've come back into yourself.
Rita dismisses Bazahor.
Okay. That happens with a thought. That is the one power that the Willow Bonded have at will, is Bazakor can just go away. What does it look like when Bazakor recedes?
Bazahor, it's less like Bazahor is like dissipating or dispersing or being like burrowing down into the earth, but more that Bazahor is being like pulled down.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Is there always a tree left in place?
100%. Yeah.
When Bazahor goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And you like slide down the trunk. So now there's just an oak tree in front of the holdfast next to this big dwarven thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you leave the tree quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not Bazahor anymore. Like Bazahor's
it's a regular tree.
Yep, it's just an oak tree.
Is Rena is like particularly drained from this, or just the stress that she had before?
Yeah, so the stress from the previous combat all goes away. So if you have anything marked down, unless you marked a box of in peril or doomed,
I didn't.
Then your stress just vanishes at the end of the conflict. As soon as Bronwyn asks that question, the stress boxes just empty out.
Cool.
So no, you are just there. How you feel about what Bazahor did, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
If you are shaken by that, that's completely legit. As well as having to deal with whatever potential fallout from his actions is about to occur.
Yeah. Rena basically lands on the ground, looks like towards Ogeti, who is now like right in front of her, but still sort of averts her gaze a little bit and just sort of goes, "Sorry."
Oh, that's okay with me. I'm quite all right with this.
What is left, if anything, of Bronwyn?
There is a tree where she was standing.
Ah.
Yeah.
Like that foot became the tree, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Effectively, yeah. That's what's left is a tree where Bronwyn was. I think just for effect, there is like a couple of fingers and the start of a hand like underneath a root, but there's not even like any twitching or anything like that.
Right. Well, that was
dead and dead again.
Mm-hmm. Re-dead again.
Cheap. Served a purpose. It's all we can ask of her.
Now that I guess all of this is over, we need to fulfill the bond.
So, as she says that, I look over at I'm sorry, is Rena she or they? I forgot. I didn't write it down.
Rena is she.
Okay, great. As Rena says that, I just look over to this new like metal construction right outside the holdfast. Is it? I mean, I think this is probably Lauren's first exposure to this kind of thing. Does it seem like actively malevolent at all, or is it just distressing that it's there?
So it's definitely distressing that it's there. If you wish to find out anything else about it, you are going to have to examine it in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. I think I think he'll just sort of like square up and try and be the leader he knows he's expected to be, and say, Scalds, keep an eye on that thing. If anything comes out of it, you know what to do. He'll turn and walk away before people see him start to blush.
Okay. Go ahead and make a roll. just so we can see what the actual impact of that is, and because failure could potentially be interesting in this case.
Yeah.
It feels like that was either forceful, right, because you're giving a command, or that's intellect, because the smart thing for someone to do right now is to, to give an order. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that was motivated from force more than intellect there.
Okay.
So.
The difficulty is just going to be a 2.
Okay, I have a 2. Force, and I got 2 ups and 1 down. So yeah, got a 3.
Awesome. Yeah. So the scalds begin sort of encircling the structure. I mean, just for reference, the tree that was Bazahor is about, I'm going to say, 4 feet in diameter, because it wasn't just that one leg. When the dismissal happens, like, the other leg came in and it sort of fused and made a whole bowl of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And this structure dwarfs the 30-foot tall oak by, I mean, it's bigger than the 30-foot tall oak by a good 2.5 times.
Wow.
This is, at a glance, it looks like there's space inside for beings to live. Like, it looks like a structure. Also, at a glance, you have no idea if there's an entrance or an exit or anything like that, and you also have no idea how deep underground it goes. So there's a lot of unknowns about this thing.
Okay.
But no one wants anything to come out of it, so the Scalds begin doing that, and because Scalds have commanding presences and so on and so forth, the rest of the holdfast sort of begins mobilizing as well. You 3 are kind of left in your own little pocket by this oak tree, probably a good 30 or so feet away from the base of this dwarven structure, and you now can do what you need to do, depending on what that is.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should check around and see if anybody needs attention, any kind of medical attention, or if there's any kind of fires we need to put out first before we start dealing with feels.
Well, we need to find the Jarl.
Yeah, we need to find the Jarl.
What time of day is it?
If I remember correctly, it is mid-morning.
Okay, cool.
This was not long after the encounter with the Jarl in your blacksmith's former home-made Searly residence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think we would be better served by finding the Jarl or by seeking the counsel of the elves first? I don't know. The Holdfast needs her. I'm not sure that we'll be able to get much from her at this point.
Well, I think it's important to make sure that everything is safe right now and that we've got enough people that are, can keep an eye out in case that there's another attack again. Make sure if there's anybody injured or killed that we can move them out of the way. And I think that we need to make sure this place calms down, and try to find some other the community leaders to just kind of help everybody feel relaxed and comfortable, and keep an eye out for the Jarl.
I don't think there's necessarily time for that. Tonight is when the pact needs to be sealed.
True, but on the other hand, I don't want to be tripping over people or having them get hurt in the town if another battle happens. We should get these folks to safety. But that's what I want to do, is get everybody to safety. And maybe we can, since I probably don't need to have a conversation with the Jarl that won't be upsetting. Maybe I can do that first and we can split up and hit all aspects of it.
Yeah, looking at the map, it looks like the road to the Elven Grove is on the opposite side of the holdfast from the battlefields.
That's correct.
So-
And it happens to go past the trading post.
Nice. So yeah, let's see here. Well, I think we should be off to the elves as soon as we possibly can. But if you wish to seek the Jarl before we leave, I respect that.
Well, we know the Jarl was not going to agree earlier. And having my people intercede could provide a solution.
Rena, go ahead and make a guile roll for me real quick.
Oh, I don't have my dice.
Dice.
Catastrophe.
Oh, dice.
Yes. Give me 1 second to get at least just some d6s that I can pretend to be.
Sure.
Dice.
Still looking for my character sheet with all the numbers on it. Stupid cats.
Oh, wait.
And my mom. My mom was here too.
Wait, dice. Aha. Nice. 4. Well, that was a straight 0 on the dice, so 2.
Okay.
And if this is involving esoteric or ancient knowledge, though, I get +2.
Yes. I think it is. And I'm going to twist that just a little bit. It's something that you would have a decent chance of knowing yourself because you are an elf.
Mm-hmm.
And what becomes esoteric or ancient knowledge for elves is a very different category of thing than for humans. However, you have this sense, and you're not sure where it's coming from necessarily. It's not from Bazakor. It's more one of those things that you just sort of if this were a movie that we were watching, it would be the protagonist just having a dawning realization of,
Mm-hmm.
that happened. Because obviously there's a whole lot about being an elf that Rena knows that we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Given the proximity to the deadline for the bargain to be fulfilled, and the fact that the elves are not far,
Mm-hmm.
and that the Jarl is nowhere to be found, you think that your people already have her. Because a deal is a deal.
Mm.
Ooh.
You have this sense that Jarl Elsabet is not around, not because she's not around, but because someone has taken her to the place where the deal is to be finalized, against her will or not.
So no one can see Jarl Elsabet.
Oh, I can't either from here or from the sky. And he'll kind of tilts his head towards the raven.
My people did not come into the conflict.
That's
Not
true.
one bit.
So perhaps they are in the same place.
You
Oh,
think?
it could be.
That's interesting.
So, how does your people determine who is the Jarl?
It's by
Family,
blood, right?
usually. You know, it's pretty much family. But if you lose a whole family in a conflict, then you know, you kind of go from there on whoever's going to, you know, be the strongest person to who wants to come to be a leader.
The GM is nodding along because that is a valid answer within setting.
Did Elsabet have family past Bronwyn?
Yes. Well, I mean, her, you know, her father, grandfather, that kind of thing.
Ah.
But not. So
Elsabet's line has ended.
Technically, yes, now.
Speaking of Elsabet as if she's dead, did I miss something?
Well,
if she does get to do the duty that she's supposed to be doing, who's going to be Arl afterwards, since she has no living children?
I see your point. But that I don't see how that gets us closer to solving the problem. Who becomes Jarl after depends on there being an after, right? I mean, we need to find her and make sure that we.
But also, that means that if for some reason she were to die, there would not be a clean new Jarl for Hell.
That's true.
That's
and
true.
that is also a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Hell is going to accept the answer of we just don't have a Jarl yet.
Well, then I guess we should maybe think about who might be the person to fill those shoes.
Well, I think we should first ascertain Elsabet's well-being.
Whether she lives or dies does have significant impact on how the rest of the day will play out. So, yes, let's...
And I know what my people's opinion will be on whether she should live or die.
You do, because when it comes down to it, the elves are nothing if not pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Jarl will not accept the mantle of Hell's High Priestess,
get a new Jarl.
Get a new Jarl.
I mean, that's a simple solution to the problem.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the solution that pleases in the short term, but elves, blink and that's gone. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you'll get over it. Just like trees lose leaves every winter.
Yeah.
Gonna have a new Jarl sometime. Why not now? The branch is rotten. Prune it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the tree is rotten. Cut it down, so it doesn't fall and damage more in its wake.
So, to that end, perhaps we should take some time and help the Holdfast. We will need their cooperation if a new Jarl is to be chosen.
True. Very true. That's part of it's part of who I am. I live to serve, and I need to make sure that this place is if not healthy, at least stable.
Have we moved away from the tree yet?
I think we were just standing right there.
You tell me if this was an Aaron Sorkin style walk and talk, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with either.
Yeah, we talked about moving back to the Holdfast, so that's
Right.
that's what I imagine is happening.
So I think at this point in time, you have moved through the gates of the Holdfast to the other side of the wall, and are at the far set of gates that would exit to the road to head toward where the elves are.
How far away is the Jarl's house from here?
Consider the Holdfast to be a zone.
Okay.
So I mean, it's as close as you need it to be.
Yeah.
If you happen to like walk by there and check or stop in the mead hall, she's not there.
Okay.
That is easily ascertained because there are people who are going around in the aftermath of this battle within the holdfast, those who do take care of people who are injured, those who are young or too old to fight, who are asking for the Jarl or,
Yeah.
similar. So right now, her shield bearers, her honor guard, that sort of thing, are doing what they do best, and they are caring for the situation. Ogeti, you see the sort of established machinery of the holdfast kind of taking up the slack, because in situations like this, everyone is trained to fight and everyone is trained to deal with the aftermath of a fight, at least to some degree.
And I want to make sure that was running.
Yeah. So you see the evidence of that before your eyes as you are walking through the holdfast. Moments like these are not the moments where a holdfast needs a Jarl. Right? Not expressly. It's moments like these that are proof of the efficacy of the Jarl outside of moments like these.
Yeah.
So Elsabet has been doing a good job, right? Regardless of what anyone may feel for her or about her interpersonally, she ruled the holdfast pretty well. Everyone's doing their thing. People are being cared for. Yes, there were casualties. Yes, there are wounded. However, everyone's being sorted. And the Jarl doesn't have to be there for that, which is fortunate because she ain't.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so is there anything more we could do to assist them, or do you feel we should just move on?
I think our efforts are better placed finding out whether she lives or dies, so that we know where to go from there.
Yeah, I think that I'm much more reassured of the whole thing, that it's in place in case something happens again. Everyone will know about it. The alarms will go out. Everything is moving as it should move, because everybody has a part of this whole, our hold. Everybody has a role, and then they know you fill in the role, even if you do your best you can to keep everything, protect what you can, and make sure the wounded are getting tended, making sure anything that's chopped down, broken is getting cleaned up, the usual post-battle type things. If that's moving well, then I agree that we should take a look at what we should be doing.
Yeah, everything seems to be prepared, and everything seems to be proceeding the way that you would expect it to. So it's one of those things, Ogeti, like as you're walking through, as you see someone like walking past, you see a problem, like a thing, anything, big, small, doesn't matter what it is, and you start to say, oh hey, make sure you, and like the person is already off, or someone else comes in their place and hits, and they're all hitting their marks.
Nice.
Perfect.
All right,
let's walk down the road then.
Okay.
I think we had established that the road to the Elven Grove was like roots, right? Like it was gnarled roots twisted over each other. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, the road grew out of it.
Yeah, and it's not difficult to traverse, no more than a cobblestone, path would be. So you just have to sort of watch your feet a little bit and make sure that you're walking carefully. As you proceed out of the holdfast, and again for ease of communication, we're going to call the path to the right east. So as you head east out of the holdfast, the sun has sort of risen in the sky and is now on its nadir, right? It's starting to descend down. It's early afternoon, at the least, but the shadows are stretching sort of in the direction that you're walking. And the trading post of the traders of the Desert Brand is within proximity to this road. They camped not too far distant from it, and the entire sight of them is sort of like a reminder that there's other stuff going on around this holdfast that is not directly related to these like existential issues. Whatever each of the three of you sort of take away from that is up to you to, realize or express should you choose it. But what you all do see is as you're getting about, say, halfway past the camp, which stretches a good, let's say, 50 yards or so across the ground, and is probably 150, 200 yards distant from the road. Like, you can see it, but it takes a while to pass it because it's distant. You see one of the hooded traders on a pale, sort of cream-colored horse riding toward you. As you're walking, like they're making sort of a beeline to where you will be if you continue at this pace.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Keep walking.
And as you get to that point, they're right there, and they very gingerly walk their horse up onto the road and in front of you.
Can we help you? We're on a matter of some importance.
And this is why I chose to approach you.
Go on.
We saw the elves. They approached the holdfast. They left with one greater than their number. It doesn't take much to surmise that, well, no one has been communicating to us the details of what is going on here, but even for those who do not follow your ways, tonight is an auspicious night. And I'm going to say that Ogeti, you having associated with the Scalds a lot, you have some idea of the stories and traditions of other lands. And there is something in the sort of lunar calendar that the traders from the Desert Brand keep that say that tonight is there's some type of festival tonight,
Right.
And so, like, this sort of makes sense to you, whether it means anything to the others, and you, I would imagine, just sort of nod in acknowledgement of that. Is that seem right?
Yeah.
And at that, the trader sort of continues and says, on this night, it is customary to give gifts to any who are departing their home to undertake a journey, be it short or long. And as we wish to be in the good graces of your holdfast, though it is our tradition and not yours, we would be remiss if we did not offer you a gift.
So we would graciously accept your gift.
Yeah, Lurin is kind of like, seems skeptical of this and is sort of like leaning on his back foot a little bit. Like,
Rena's mostly just sort of thinking in her head, humans.
What are you gonna do? So at that, the trader fluidly dismounts the horse. It's almost like an eye blink, right? And suddenly he's standing before you and has in his hands a bundle of leather that has sort of a tie on it. He undoes the tie from the little toggle and unfolds it, and inside it is there are 3 pouches, and each holds a knife with bone handles.
So I was a blacksmith's apprentice prior to bleeding from the side. What are they, like, well made? Are they?
Oh yes. You can't see much of the blade because the blades are sort of sheathed inside this this little satchel he unfolded. But the bone handles speak of very good craftsmanship. The other thing that you know about this type of thing is that if it is a weapon that is to be used for combat, bone is not typically like the best material for a grip, because when you stab a person and blood gets on that, it becomes pretty slick. So the man unfolds them and then slides one of them out of the sheath and flips it 180 degrees just over on its central axis, and you can see that the backside of this bone grip is somehow there's leather embedded on the backside of the bone. So like where your fingers would wrap is leather, but if you have it in a sheath, say on your belt, the ceremonial part, the bone will show. So it's beautiful and functional.
Nice.
The other thing that catches your eye is that the metal is chased with this green striations that have become known to be associated with the desert traders. And there's apparently one for each of you.
I'll reach out to grab them and tell him that these gifts are more than generous for us, and we thank you. And wonder, is there anything that we can do to make you more comfortable while you're here? We obviously are having a bit of a hard time back here, but you are valuable, and we hope we would never make you want to leave.
So he sort of inclines his head as you take the knife, and then as you continue talking, his smile gets just a hair more tight, and you get the impression that he's sort of in the middle of like a ritual kind of thing. And as you finish, he lets you finish. He looks at the other two as if like they need to take their presents, and then I have a thing to say, and then we're good.
I'll just kind of, elbow you over here.
Lurin will reach out and take one of the blades, and as he does, he says, "If I were of your people, would it be customary to return a gift, since you journeyed from your home as well?"
He says nothing and simply looks at Rena.
I'm heading towards home.
I'll just take the dagger.
Arena reaches out and takes the dagger.
Okay. And he then nods at you, and he says something in a language that none of the three of you speak. And inclines his head again and does sort of like a motion as he sort of bows, and it looks like the completion of some type of ritualistic action. And then he sort of straightens up and takes a slightly more casual stance, and he says to Ogeti first, "We are comfortable. No further accommodations are necessary. Thank you." And then he turns to Lurin and he says, "These gifts are not required to be reciprocated, though the thought does you honor." And then he turns to Rena and he says, "Every journey is a journey, whether you're headed home or no." And then he simply bows his head and moves to remount his horse.
So I have my ritual staff,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it has feathers from the raven, because I inherited the raven as well, hanging from it. I'm gonna slip one of those free and offer it to him as he gets on his horse.
He watches you, and he sort of looks at the feather and looks down at it, and he takes it, and for the first time he pulls back his hood, because he's just had it up the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thick black cloak he's sort of wearing, and he's a handsome man behind that, and he sort of flashes you a smile. He's got brown stains on his teeth, and he takes the feather and he tucks it behind his ear, and he winks at you and begins to ride off.
Yeah, Lurin's blushing again. It's kind of his move. Well, shall we be on our way?
Indeed.
And Rita starts walking.
I'll just
All right.
strap it on to my, to my belt as best as I can.
Okay, so the Elven Grove, Rena, how far away do you figure that is from the Holdfast?
It is not a short walk, but it's not a long walk either.
Okay. So we're talking about something on the order of a little less than 3 miles.
Yeah.
So for people who are fit and moving along a relatively easy pathway, you're talking a little less than an hour.
Yeah.
To get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What time is it ish?
So it would be approaching mid-afternoon as you would get there.
Mm-hmm.
And you all know that the decision is to be made tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, what do each of you hope to accomplish by heading to the Elven Grove in search of the Jarl?
The Arl. Finding the Arl and making sure one way or another, that she or someone else will be able to fulfill their duty to help.
Okay.
So if she's not there or something happens, she's dead or whatever, then I'm trying to think of a plan of how we can find a Jarl to take on that duty.
Okay.
Yeah, Lurin's kind of he's got the cogs turning as well, because he assumed that the elves were going to have a solution, and they did have a solution, and it's not one that he likes. So he's trying to kind of figure out the contours of the situation right now. He's a part of him is hoping she's dead already, just so they don't have to deal with it. They can just go back and figure out the next piece. But
yeah, Rena's just thinking, if Elspeth's not dead, then I will kill her.
Okay. So, the sun begins to actually fade a little bit, but not because the time has passed too far, but because clouds have begun to roll in across the landscape. And you can still see just fine, obviously. But as you approach the Elven Grove itself, I would like each of you to add a sort of detail about what is seen when you walk towards this. So sort of like we did at the very beginning of the session. Like, what is a thing that you each notice about the Elven Grove?
I think that as we get deeper in, Lurin notices that regardless of the species of tree, all of the dried edges of the bark, wherever it's flaking away, whatever the farthest from the heartwood is, are all very slightly almost silver grayed in the direction of deeper into the grove.
Okay, so they're all sort of pointing.
Yeah, it's almost like moss growing on a tree to show you the way north. It's like there's like if you're walking towards the center, then you're just seeing the lines on either side of you. You would know if you got off course. It draws you in.
Okay, cool.
Rena expects to be seeing a bunch of scouts and warriors hidden in and amongst the tree branches.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are there.
Okay.
I'm noticing how quiet it gets. The further we get in, the quieter it gets, but not an oppressing kind of quiet, but a soothing, calm quiet, which you wouldn't expect in a forest. place.
Yeah, you would expect bird song and the sounds of
Right.
insects and little animals and so on and so forth, and there aren't even fallen branches on the path. You're not even disturbing the bark of the roots that are making up this path. Your footfalls even become quieter as you proceed in, and the sort of I feel like the solemnity is affecting each of you in a different way, right? I feel like, oh, Getty, you are more and more surprised by it the deeper you go. Like it just continues to sort of shock you
Mm-hmm.
how quiet and how tranquil it is. Um, Lurin with the bark sort of serving as the guide, I feel like you might be getting more calm and more comfortable because for the first time in a long time, something is telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just follow a path, if that seems accurate.
Yeah, no, that fits.
And Rena, I feel like you are probably getting more tense and more anxious than you've been this entire time. Because even though you are outside of the grove and among people who are not your own, you are seeing none of the usual signs that you should be seeing. As far as any warrior part of your brain is concerned, the grove is undefended right now. And I feel like you pass sort of rings of defense where like the types of trees shift a little bit, and if an enemy were to press further into the grove, it would become more and more difficult, and you're continuing to see no one there. And all these feelings sort of continue to build. You walk probably, I'd say, another hour through the grove itself, and the light continues to dim and dim as the sun goes down and as the canopy grows more thick above you, until you come to Rena, what you know to be the heart of the grove. And this is one of the few communal spaces that the elves have. I feel like elves, generally speaking, much like trees, live solitary existences.
Pretty introverted.
Yeah, with the except, like, you're not an aspen grove, right? Your roots are not all interconnected. But there is this one gathering place, and there's typically, a triple handful of elves walking around this space at any point in time. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what everyone has to do. But you only see one person. Standing in the middle of the grove. I let that sound pass because it felt like it really punctuated the moment.
It was nice.
There's just one person standing in the middle of the grove. And it's not an elf.
Who is it?
Jarl Elsabet.
Is she looking at us like is she watching us approach?
Mm-hmm.
Does she look weird to us some way, like not like her normal presence or anything? Or does she look afraid?
It would feel odd to you because she is a very forceful and forthright person, as you all saw in the seer's space when she denied the prophecy and the reading of the runestones. She's just sort of standing there. It does seem odd for her. If anyone wishes to ascertain more information, you can tell me what approach you are using and what action you are taking to do so.
I'm approaching a cat. Come here. Get off my stuff, cat. Somebody else can.
Yeah. I think before we get like too close, Lauren will just sort of call out and say, Elizabeth, we did not expect to meet you here. You were resistant to coming to see the elves the last we spoke.
She responds to you, and her voice is 90% hers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if anyone didn't know her, it would just sound like someone responding to a question. But to the two of you who have seen her around, you know that something is different. What it is, it's hard to say. But she says, I had no problem coming to see the elves. My problem was with accepting a bargain that I didn't make, that was made in my name. But fate seems to have led me here.
Rena, like she has been like a coiled spring, just yells at the Jarl with her voice and with Bazahor's. Where are my people?
As you say that, and as the power sort of ripples out from you, because Bazahor's voice is not a small thing. The other two of you, actually all three of you, see the power of Rena's voice sort of ripples past the Jarl. It's almost visible, kind of like heat waves rising from a fire, but heading out. And as the power goes past her, her hair gets blown back a little bit. She leans back a touch, and you see on the ground on either side of her, next to her right foot and her left foot, probably about 3.5, 4 feet apart, there are two symbols that briefly spark with power, almost a sympathetic response to the power that just came out of Rena. If you wish to see what those symbols are, you would either have to take a closer look at them, or you would need to make a roll from here using an approach.
I think Lauren would be interested to see what those runes are, but I guess runes are kind of more.
Yeah, I definitely want to take a look there, and I'll approach with the kind of with some force here to like, what is this? What the heck is going on here? Or
Okay.
what the hell is going on here?
So I'll tell you that the roll is only needed if you stay where you are. If you just head up there, then you'll just see them.
Yep.
Yeah, Rena's just man.
Okay. So the two of you sort of head forward. The three of you, if everyone is approaching.
No, Lauren's staying back. He actually grabs
fantastic.
at Ogeti's cloak as she strides forward to try and stop her.
Is that effective? Are you making a roll to try and do this, or are you just narratively?
Narratively, I mean, I think he probably grabs her cloak, but she can pull out of it without too much effort if she wants. Yeah.
So the two of you head forward, and you see the symbols that are on the ground. One of them is very familiar to you, Ogeti. It's the rune of Issa.
Yeah.
Which means ice, frost, and death. But it is it's difficult for a rune like Issa to have a merc stave, which means the reverse of it, because how do you reverse a straight line, right?
Right.
If you flip it along its axis, it's the same. If you turn it 180 degrees like the other runes, it's the same. What Issa can do is be occluded, so turn 90 degrees lengthwise, right? Because it's usually vertical. Your tattoo of Issa is vertical as you see it from your body and as it's presented to the world.
Right.
What that typically means is a sort of half death, or a thawing, depending on what it's representing. It's very often associated with the goddess Hel, because half of Hel's body is dead,
Right.
and the other half is not. On the other side, Rena, you see another rune that is very common in the area, and it's the rune of Othala, which means age, ancestry, and old power. Mortals very often associate it with Odin, right? And as an aside, for anyone who is part of this game or watching this game, it's also the rune that you don't get tattooed on your body because it's the one that white supremacists have appropriated most strongly, very unfortunately.
Boo.
So that means you probably have seen it before, unfortunately, but just to give you a reference as to what it looks like without having to Google it. But mortals associate it with Odin. You know it more generally to mean the old power portion of this, which is to say it's a rune that's very often associated with your people, right? And in some instances it could very easily be used to represent the Mother Huntress. And these two symbols are on either side of Jarl Alcibet, about 4 feet apart. And she's just standing there.
So, how'd you get here?
I walked.
You hear you walked up with some elves.
The elves were nearby, but I came of my own accord.
Does that mean that you are waiting for Hel and you're accepting the burden?
Absolutely not. And for a moment, you see 100% of your Jarl. Right there. But I'm here nonetheless.
Can I don't know what all seers can do. Can I like attune to see if there's like some ritual at work here or some?
Yeah, totally. Basically, you're going to use seer magic on your vision to when you use seer magic to do an effect like the hedgerow, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just sort of instinctually reach out to a strand of fate and pluck it to have time do what it does and have the hedgerow be there. What you're trying to do now is to see the strands of fate that are connecting everything, which is more than you usually actively see.
Yeah.
So you still need to mark a box of seer magic, and the rules still apply as usual. So you're going to roll a difficulty of 4. The roll is with focus. You get a +2 because of your ritual staff. And whether you tie or succeed at a cost, you're going to create an aspect that reflects this magic that you're using. If you tie or succeed at a cost, you will either mark a box of mistrusted or a box of indebted to reflect the capital P power to whom you owe a debt.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see your roll.
I got 2 plus 1 minus, and I was out of 4, so I got 5 total.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm moving to slide 6 here. We're gonna do a few things to sort of set this up. So this whole not twilight, but twilit grove. I'm not sure if that's actually a word, but I like it.
Looks nice.
Because the grove is in perpetual twilight, no matter what. We also have an aspect we'll reveal in a moment, and then specifically for you, Lauren, we have visible strands of fate. And I'm going to take this card and I'm going to make it into a big old zone. We will move. Where is the thing? Range. Come on. This is just absolutely riveting, I'm sure. But where's my thing to move it forward?
Do you want the grove back?
No. I just need to send backwards, and I need to send 2 back. There we go. So the Twilight Grove is now in the back. This is your sort of zone.
Okay.
And so I'm going to take all of your tokens from the other page, and I'm going to move them right there. So there y'all are. Lurin, I'm going to put that there for you and take 1, 2, 3 fate points. So you have 3 invocations on visible strands of fate. So you can now see every causality, every choice, every predestination that brought everyone here.
That sounds overwhelming.
It is intensely overwhelming. I'm really glad that you succeeded on the roll. Otherwise, you would... it's like Harry Dresden opening his third eye. It's like peeling back the layer of reality to see how we're all connected at an atomic level. Like, it's some shit.
Yeah.
What I will say that these fate points can be used for in this instance, because it is very difficult to try and explain this kind of thing to someone who has not seen it before or who's not familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're a new seer, you can feel the strands of fate. You have manipulated them before to do things. So you get at an instinctual, maybe even subconscious level, how all this works. Trying to explain to someone how all these lines intersect is like I can't even think of a metaphor to try and explain it. So
it's smelling colors, right? I mean, like you're
exactly. Yeah. It's like trying to explain synesthesia to somebody. You literally are seeing the world in a different way. You are Neo right now. You see the Matrix.
Right.
It's just lines of code to you. So what you can do with those fate points is you can use them to declare deep level facts about this situation. Right? So you can, if something comes up and you're like, no, this is why it happened, you can spend off one of those fate points. And I'm talking about like scenario altering levels of specificity.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah, you have a lot of sway with these. These are not your normal declarative fate points.
Okay.
The other thing that you can do with them is if you want to move one of the threads of fate and change a thing that has always been, you can spend 2 of them.
Okay.
So basically getting a free use of the Seer's power. Also, as a player, I will remind you that you still have your use of a word in the right ear. In other words, you have a lot of power in this specific scenario.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is exactly the nexus points that seers were made for. So,
all right.
And the aspect that I'm going to reveal to you is knotted threads of fate. As you're looking at all of these lines and you're looking at all of these threads, you are seeing that so many different things are tied around Jarl Alphabet. And when you cast the runes, you get some glimpse into someone's fate. You see how the strands intersect and all that stuff. But there is a very specific belief when we see Norse people depicted in popular culture now in our world, they seem very fatalistic, right? Ragnarok's going to happen. We just need to accept that Ragnarok's going to happen. We're going to fight against it, but we're going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just going to do that thing. There's this idea, though, that a person can change their fate. And it's literally known as carving a new fate on the roots of Yggdrasil, right? Like it's a thing. And so in Iron Edda, there's this idea, I think I express it in the novel more than in the game book, but still, that what seems like fate to most people is nothing more than a series of choices where you felt like you had no other option. That may be true, it may be not true. Like, you always have a choice. But when you're in those moments where you feel like there's only one thing you can do, feels like fate.
Sure.
But only in hindsight.
Yeah, sure.
So, Jarl Elsabet, though, is here because strands that are not her own have tied her to this situation. Like, as you hear the sort of strange way that she talked about how she arrived here, and how she was still defying the idea of making this choice, you can tell that there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different choices she could have made at any point in time today, from the smallest little things to large things, and she still would have ended up here because other people's choices have bound her to this. So from a practical standpoint, it doesn't matter how she got here. She was going to end up here anyway.
Right.
So I've info dumped a lot of stuff at you now, so I will now retreat a little bit, and you have this information. What do you choose to do with it?
But that didn't tell me any more about the nature of the runes or anything like that. Can I use some of the fate points to?
Yeah. Spend off one of them, and you get to declare this detail. This is your call as to what these runes mean. If that's too much, I will happily guide you through it. But I want you to have input here as this is sort of your agency in this situation.
I think my inclination is that she's trying to play both ends against the middle effectively, and has these two powers in Hell and in the Great Huntress that both are tied up with her fate, and she is trying to basically pit them against each other to just dissolve the bonds that way. Like, she wants to turn Hell and the Huntress against each other, and she's trying to just, like, sneak out the back door effectively while those two great powers kind of contest each other.
If I may, I'll throw a little wrinkle in that.
Sure.
I think you are 100% accurate that she's trying to sneak out the back door. Think back to what the sort of terms of the deal were. That a leader, someone with power, would become Hell's mouthpiece in the world.
Wasn't it specifically the Jarl?
It wasn't necessarily. It was a deal made with the humans.
I see.
But your sort of divination of this situation is mostly correct. She wants out of this, but she wants to lead the Holdfast. Once the Mother Huntress is freed, who's a more powerful leader, her or the Mother Huntress? Let the Mother Huntress be Hell's mouthpiece.
Fascinating.
Or terrifying, depending on
Yeah.
your take.
I think that I think Lauren is actually gonna just be frozen, like processing this for a moment. Like I think that self-consciousness, like he is seeing it and feeling it through, you know, through the very real connections of fate, but at the same time he's still so much the blacksmith's apprentice and like used to the direct functionality of things that I think that it's too big for him to grasp right away, and he's, I think, gonna be stunned for a moment, not taking any direct action on all of that.
So as Lauren is just sort of like staring at this, and you both can sort of feel like power kind of rolling off of him. I don't know if his eyes are glowing or anything like that, but like it's obvious he's doing something. And he's just sort of standing stock still. So what did the two of you do?
I think he started to bleed through on the side as well. You can see
yeah,
like
yeah.
That I think is probably the biggest indicator.
Yeah.
Is that you see a small red spot begin on his side, and it just begins to spread and begins to actually very slowly soak down the side of his tunic.
I'd like to reach out and just smack him a bit.
Me?
Yeah, just like,
okay.
Come on. We need you now to focus.
So, if I may, Lauren, you don't feel anything. Like, you don't even see Ogeti do this.
Mm-hmm.
Ogeti, as soon as you touch him to smack him, his face doesn't move. It's like smacking a tree. And you feel one thing. You sort of feel the deep well of power within him, which is not very often evident from this man. Two, for a split second, you see exactly what he's seeing. Like, you get a flash of the lines of code that drive the world effectively, and then it's gone as soon as you remove your hand.
Rita moves to stab Elsabeth.
Okay. So let's see. Ogeti is occupied.
Yep. I go whack.
Has just seen the true nature of reality.
Holy crap.
Go ahead and what approach are you using for that, Rena?
Rena is going to be using I think just pure force right now.
Okay. And with what are you attempting to stab the Jarl?
The knife I was just handed.
Okay. So, what is your rating on force?
2.
2. Go ahead and add another 2 to that because of this blade.
Cool.
And the difficulty that you are trying to hit is a 5.
Well, I've gotten a 6.
Okay.
Nice.
Do you wish success with style?
I will spend a fate point to invoke my bond in my mother's stone seal.
Oh.
Nice.
That is kind of wonderful. Your mother's stone seal, where do you keep that?
Rena keeps it around her neck.
Okay. As you draw this knife, right, and flip it, or I imagine you draw it and like reverse your grip on it so you can stab forward.
Yeah.
As you do that, you draw it out and you go to flip the grip of it, and you've got it sort of back by your chest real quick, and you're lunging forward just because the force of it, like, as you move it forward, you feel the sort of knotted piece of like hemp that has your mother's stone seal on it get drawn forward along with the knife, I'm imagining that it's actually a very small sort of thing, just maybe a little bit bigger than a quarter in size. Is
Mhm.
that is that okay?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Okay, cool. Um, and you notice for just a split second that that is almost exactly the size of the pommel of this dagger.
Mm.
As you plunge the knife into Jarl Elsabeth's chest, the necklace holding your Mother's Stone seal snaps off of your neck
Mhm.
and affixes itself to the butt of the dagger. And as you plunge it into Jarl Elsabeth's chest, blood begins to flow, and the green light that's in the dagger sort of flashes up the pommel and back towards your hand, but it coruscates around your hand and goes into your Mother's Stone seal instead. Good
Rena.
job with that successful style.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rena, she was trying to bind the Mother Huntress to her pact. She was. I don't know. So, visible strands of fate. What happened? What happens in this case?
So
how did fate get altered in that moment?
So what you see? What is your intention with her? Because your intention matters a lot in this instance.
Yeah, so Rena's basically like, it doesn't matter what she's doing. It's not the thing that will actually get me my mother back.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
So that is actually perfect in this moment, right? Because so much of human fate is driven by intention, right? You intend to do a thing and you choose to do a thing because you want a certain outcome. And all Rena is seeing right now is this woman in front of me who won't make a choice is the block to all of this. It's kind of ironic because Rena had thought that Ogeti was the one who needed to cut through the Gordian knot of this particular problem. But Lauren, as you are like standing there and you see this knife come forward toward the Jarl, as the knife stabs into her chest,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see that. What you instead see is knots that were tied to the Jarl just shattering like so much ice, so many pellets of ice just smashed onto the ground.
Hmm.
As the threads of fate that were all bound to the Jarl are just cut away. And you feel an immense release of power as these strands of fate snap back into the darkness. And there are now loose, dangling threads of fate that are unbound from anything. And there are typically, there's one instance where this happens, where some being of immense power curses someone and they are severed from their own strands of fate and left rootless in the world. And that is typically really bad for the person, right? Because suddenly they are left with nothing, no connection, no real binding to anything.
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, the person who would be sort of afflicted by this is dying. Her heart's blood is spilling out onto the floor. And so these strands of fate themselves are snapping back harder than usual. And the recoil, as far as you can see, it looks like a handful of whips are flying around the room and are flailing at anything that gets too close. Speaking in metaphorical terms
Right.
of fate, destiny is unmoored in this brief instant. And the major players involved, Hel, the Mother Huntress, and as far as you know, the three of you.
Yeah.
Lauren, what you can see is that there is chaos forming at the heart of this situation. And for a moment, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. There's just uncertainty.
Yeah. I'm tempted to use intervention and stake the Jarl back to the...
Oh shit. Oh shit. Would you please, for everyone who is watching, including the other two players, read what your intervention stunt does?
Sure. So my intervention stunt is once per session. If a character is about to die, either due to the narrative or due to be taken out while their doomed condition is marked, you can intervene in their destiny, saving them. Mark a box of mistrusted. Or indebted. I don't know. Your intervention saves this character's life, clearing all of their conditions and stress. If they are grateful for this intervention, they mark 2 boxes of indebted. If they are not grateful, they gain the broken fate condition. In either case, if the character who was saved has a destiny, they may choose to change their destiny, spending advancements and refresh as normal.
So, we had established early on, I believe, that the Jarl Elizabeth in this case was what we would call a major NPC, rules-wise, which means she's built just like y'all are. So she has a destiny. And her destiny was the leader. She is not grateful for this intervention. Actually, you know what? Let me think about this.
I mean, it's better than being dead, right?
Does she still have the runes? Are the runes still there on the ground?
Yes, they're on either side of her.
Are they doing anything?
Well, let's find out. I need to look up something real quick.
Because Luren's honestly concerned that, like, with her out of the equation, the Mother Huntress is going to get the mantle of hell, and that does not sound like a good outcome for anybody. So that was his motivation for trying to snap her back into...
Okay, so here is let me read to you the broken fate condition. It's a special condition with no boxes. As when it is gained, it irrevocably changes the character who gains it. If the character is an NPC, when this condition is gained, the NPC's behavior radically changes. Give them a new high concept. Fine. If the character is a PC, that character gains an entirely new destiny. They get to gain all new advances. In each case, the character gains the new trouble untethered from fate. Until they advance again and change their trouble to something else, the character cannot be affected or take advantage of seer magic or similar effects, as they are in the process of rewriting their destiny thanks to the seer's intervention. So, she is not thankful. She gains the broken fate condition, which means that you have solved half of the problem. Jarl Elsabet is alive. However, she is still untethered from fate. And her destiny is no longer that of the leader. Which makes her inappropriate to be the recipient of the mantle of hell. We'll call it that.
Gotcha.
It, however, does the other thing that Rena was attempting to accomplish by stabbing the Jarl, which is make her no longer Jarl. So, what you have effectively done is you have gotten Elsabet out of this situation. Why she is ungrateful to you for this, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know her mind. But seeing the strands of fate, you see her back alive. First of all, hold on. We're missing a whole narrative chunk thing here. So, we had we have the I know Kung Fu moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the slap. We have the stabbing. And you choosing to intervene and save the Jarl. What does that intervention look like? What does everyone else see?
I think what that intervention looks like is Lurin lurching forward and ripping the side of their shirt open and just smearing their hand through the wound and like pressing that to the throat of the Jarl.
Okay. So you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Rena, you are no murderer to relish in the feeling of a knife in someone else's body. You were pruning a broken branch.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you left the blade in her chest.
No.
I think you stabbed her and removed it.
Mm-hmm.
So you do that. Blood begins to pour down her shirt. Lurin puts their hand on the Jarl's throat, covered in his own sear blood. And much like Bazahor absorbed the blood from Lurin's side, this blood gets absorbed into the Jarl, and as it does, you see the wound in her chest stop bleeding. And you, through the because you stabbed her right through leather armor, right? Mm-hmm. You see the blood stop flowing. You see the wound, as much of it as you can see, knit itself. And the big thing is, she goes and stands there, breathing heavily.
What is Ogeti up to during all this?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
So after I did the slap, I'm kind of, in that same point of like, whoa, what is this? And then while I'm still processing that, all of a sudden I just see this shank right out there, and I'm like, what is happening here? And then I see all this happen, and then so I'm looking to see if the runes are doing anything at this point.
So you look down at the ground, and you see the rune of Othala representing the Mother Huntress, and you see the rune of the occluded rune of Isa representing Hell, and both of them sort of begin. You can't tell if they've been glowing for a little bit or not, but they're definitely glowing more than they were before, because they seem to be responding sympathetically to the power that's being unleashed here. And there's a lot of power that's been unleashed in this Twilight Grove so far, because the seer just intervened and saved someone from death. And I think with that intervention, the seer has kicked off something that you, Ogeti, hoped to never see in your life. I don't know that you knew you didn't wish to ever see this, but as soon as you see it happening, it's one of those I could have done without ever having actually seen the deity Hell. Because out of the sort of twilight that surrounds this grove, directly opposite her own rune, strides a woman. She is about 5'10". She has raven black hair and very smooth skin. It's kind of a light brown color, almost as if she had been out in the sun, but it's unblemished at all. She is wearing dysfunctional but very well made armor, carrying a wicked looking dagger in her right hand, and staring at you with a piercing green eye. Because that's the first thing that you take in. That's the right side of her body. The left side of her body is all of those things as if they had been dead for 1,000 years. The hair is straggly little mummified bits. Her armor is decayed, tattered. There's no skin to speak of on the left side of her body. You see every joint. You see rotted sinew. You don't even know how her left foot is moving, how her left arm is moving. Her left arm has a buckler strapped to it, that by rights should have fallen off, but is somehow still oriented for defense. And the eye on that side that is staring at you is doing so with a sickly green glow that looks not dissimilar to the green glow that is currently surrounding the symbol of the Mother Huntress on the pommel of the dagger that was just used to kill Yara Alsabet, albeit possibly fruitlessly. And I think that is a good moment for a pause, as we're about halfway through this, or so. If everyone agrees, should we take a quick break?
Quick break.
Yeah, that sounds
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
Quick break, and then we'll come back and pick this scene up right where we left it off.
Oh boy.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Cool.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and we will be back in, let's just call it 10 minutes. Does that sound good for you guys?
Yep.
All right. We'll see you guys then. Hello, we are back from our break, and without any further ado, I'll turn it back over to Tracy so we can pick up right where we left off.
Okay, so where we left off, in case anyone needs a brief catch up, is I can't even do a brief catch up. The goddess Hell just appeared amidst all of this stuff with Yar Alsabet just having been stabbed and then brought back from her certain death. Ogedi, you asked me a question off camera. So why don't you ask me that question again for everyone to hear?
Okay. So as this is all happening, because I was looking at the runes and then I looked up and felt the presence, and I want to look down at the runes again. Does it feel that if these runes could be, if the runes were not there, would that affect anything? Do I feel that the runes are really tied to what's happening right now, or because of what just happened, if that they're just there and there's nothing of value with that? So if I was going to try to ice them over, to kind of destroy them, to see if that's going to have a unhelpful impact on everything.
Okay, so rather than do a roll, something that just occurred to me. Here's a thought. Ian, if you are okay with Ogedi having siphoned off some of your Seerly power in that moment where she saw the same thing you did,
Sure, yeah.
And she can spend one of those invokes, and I will answer her question 100% cleanly.
Yeah, I think that, those represent the knowledge, right, of fate, and she got a glimpse into that. So I think letting her act on it is totally appropriate.
Dancy, are you cool with that?
I am totally cool with that.
Wonderful. We will nix another invoke on Visible Strands of Fate. I will remind you that once the last invoke is gone, the magic is not necessarily gone, but you also don't have any fate points of your own to spend. So keep in mind, though, that someone touching you gave them a glimpse of that. Who knows? That may come in handy as a piece of actionable information later. Anyway, you look at these runes and you think about using your power to cover them over. You think about destroying them, and you think about the brief glimpse you got of all the knots that were tied around the Jarl. And what you remember explicitly of that brief glimpse is that the runes themselves that were on the ground had nothing to do with those knots. They were not connected to a strand of fate. They were not indicative of anything in the grander scheme of things. They were mere representations of the two major players in all of this.
Okay.
So not to waste an action trying to cover them over, because it would be fruitless. So that will hopefully...
More symbolic than...
Yeah, exactly.
It has a power to it.
Yeah. You might feel better. I don't know, but I don't know if that helps anything in the long term here. So you were the one who was sort of the focus character when Hell walked out of the edge of the grove and appeared. What do you do?
Oh, hell.
I wish I could say that was the first time I've heard that joke. Sadly, I'm Loki's daughter, so I have heard it more times than I care to count.
So I'm, as I do, oh, hell, I kind of tap the other two so they can pay attention. It's like, hey. Oh, look what rolled up here. Hey, now.
Yeah, Rena is a little distracted by the whole killing somebody and then them coming back to life thing.
Fair.
But getting tapped by Ogedi definitely has her sort of look up, and Rena drops the knife.
Interesting.
As you drop the knife, when the knife hits the ground. It bounces a little bit, and your mother's seal
Mm-hmm.
sort of clicks off the end of it, because I mean, you have no idea how it was actually like even there in the first place. You might not have even noticed it
Mm-hmm.
in the heat of your stabbing. But it bounces off the knife and sort of ting 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 ting, although it's the sound of stone over root, but still bounces across the clearing and sort of comes to rest directly on top of the rune of Othala. Ogeti, you see this happen, but you remember the connections that you saw, and you realize that this is one, like, this is one of those moments where if a character had like a lot of time to sit back and digest the grander scheme of things, you would get that there are things that happen symbolically, and then things that happen like that have a lot of actual meaning behind them. This is one of the former. So like, of course it stopped right on the rune. You don't even know what it is necessarily, except it's glowing with this sort of green energy, but it stopped directly on top of that rune.
Typical.
So, yeah, exactly. Hell takes a few steps forward and looks directly at Jarl Elsabet and says, "Why do you not wish to serve me?" Now, for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want to have a conversation with myself. Two, because I would love to have y'all's input on this. Does anyone have a thought as to what Elsabet's actual answer to a goddess would be?
I mean,
She seems unwilling to bend the knee to anything.
Yeah.
Is kind of my feel from her.
Yeah, possibly a sort of I am my only master.
I that resonates a lot with me. I like that a lot. And so I think her response will simply be, because the only serving that I wish to do is to serve to the needs of the people who look to me for leadership. Now, Lurin, it seems she doesn't know all of the things about what has happened right now. And you see Hell sort of bend her head to the side like she's looking at the same kinds of things that you could see. And Hell walks up to Elsabet and takes her desiccated hand and sort of lays it on the side of her neck like, "Oh, you poor thing," right? And just says, "Well, you won't have to worry about that anymore. What you will need to worry about is who is going to follow you and why." And she gives kind of a pointed glance in your direction, Lauren. Because hell's not above calling some folks out for actions.
That's legit. So I think Lurin, kind of dove to like put the blood on Elsabet initially, and then when she got up, I don't think he actually did. I think he like stumbled backwards and has been like rather undignifiedly crab walking back when Hell came into the clearing, and it's just kind of like plopped on his ass right now. So he's gonna look to the ground and like be unwilling to make eye contact with Hel, but say she was an unwilling servant. I alleviated that. I removed the burden from her shoulders.
Hel actually sighs, sort of resignedly sort of shakes her head back and forth and looks at Rena and says, "They're so short-sighted sometimes, aren't they? Well, not that everyone present can see as far as perhaps they ought." Regardless,
Definitely wasn't expecting this.
that's the thing about fate. A lack of expectations is often easier. And she like reaches up with her desiccated left hand and like scratches her skull-like cheek, and like little flakes of skin fall off. And there's like levels of implication that are present in that one motion from a deity. She says, "Regardless, there is a debt to be paid. There is an agreement. Someone of power, someone who had the ear of a people, was to become my mouthpiece in the world. It was to be her. She has been cut loose. And the one that I have been tempering all of these years will not be freed until the bargain is fulfilled." So,
Lurid will look at Rena when Hel says that. I mean, yeah.
The Mother Huntress is being held.
So Hel is holding on to the Mother Huntress somewhere.
In her domain, presumably.
So, you require someone who already has power. Someone who would take your mantle voluntarily.
I do.
Doesn't have to be the actual Jarl of this particular village.
Someone to whom the people will listen. Who can be my voice in this world.
Rena looks between the two of you.
I'm actually... I think Lurin looks to Ogeti and sees that she's going to make a move. Because he
High Priest chicken.
yeah, exactly. He kind of feels like it's on him, but he does not have the backbone to just step in, I don't think.
Yeah, so my feel is that so if this volunteer with power steps in, what does that mean for our village, of our people, of our hold?
Sorry, I got distracted for a moment. Could you please repeat your question?
Yes. So if somebody were to volunteer, what does that mean for our hold?
You're not sure at all. what that may mean, because the idea of someone being the Jarl of the Holdfast traditionally means that they cannot hold any other power, right? So a rune scribed.
No, I'm asking her.
Oh, her. You're asking Hell.
Yeah.
Interesting. She looks at you and says, I could not say. Every person's fate is their own.
Well, if that was true, then couldn't you just leave?
I could. However, I choose not to.
What is Elsabet doing during this time?
She's just kind of standing there, a little bit, not dumbfounded by the entire thing, but just, you still have like your seerly vision up, right? And so you get this sense that she can feel the loss of fate, right? She can feel that something is gone which was there before. And it partially feels like freedom, and it partially feels like falling. You know what I mean? And so you see like the barest little wisps of strands of fate like coming out from her, but as soon as one appears, it like vanishes again, because she's not in any place to actually make a choice about what to do and set herself down a path right now, because she has literally been untethered from everything she knew, whether she knows that explicitly or not.
And is it possible? This is for you. Is it possible to force a choice upon her?
On who? Which her?
On Elspeth.
Possibly. What do you? What's your intention with that question?
So I'd like to look at her and just say, if there's another person that will volunteer to take up this power, will you take up the mantle again to lead everybody as Jarl?
For the first time since she was brought back, she looks clearly at you, like her eyes focus a little bit more. And Lauren, you see some things sort of solidifying a little bit within her. And there's going to be an opposed roll here. Ogeti, I believe you're going to need to oppose with focus.
Okay.
Because actually, let me try and think about this. The approaches pair opposite each other, and I'm trying to remember what directly opposes the one that I'm thinking of, but I can't, and so focus seems appropriate in the moment, because I don't want to belabor this. So you're going to roll focus, and she's going to roll her approach, and we're going to see what happens.
Can I roll this as I live to serve, since I'm trying to serve the community?
Yes, you get a +1 to this overcome. That makes total sense.
All right. So let's see. I got a +2 minus and a blank, and that gives on top of 3. So my focus is 2. The +1, that's a 3, and then I guess that.
What'd you get? Total.
So I have 3, and then I've got what 4 was a plus, right? The plus is, and then I got 2 minuses, and then a blank.
So that's 2 total then.
2 total.
Total.
Okay. So she got a 4.
Okay.
Do you wish to invoke any aspects? You have a bunch of fate points.
Yes.
So Protector of the Scalded Hearth is definitely something you can invoke. And that will get you tied with her.
Yeah.
And then you can spend another one of your fate points, I would say, to actually invoke the visible strands of fate that you had a glimpse at. Like you can get a little resonant power from Lauren real quick, and that'll take you above her by 2. This isn't an out and out conflict, so I'm not pulling in fate points for myself or my NPCs.
Right.
But that will, if you want to spend 2 of your fate points, you can definitely have beat her in this.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so the statement that she is going to make to you is not going to be any different than it was before. The difference is you know that she is lying to you when she says this. Okay, so she looks you dead in the eye when you ask her the question of if someone else makes the choice, will you lead our people? She says yes. One word, simply. But you know that she's lying. If you want to invoke another aspect and get a success with style, I will tell you also that you know why she's lying or what she's specifically lying about.
Okay.
Okay, so what other aspect are you going to invoke? And it has to be different than the other 2. You could use your group aspect, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because you've got that other that flash of power from Lurin.
Sure.
And he gave you a vision of the strands of fate. How confident is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the success with style lets you know she's not even aware consciously that she's lying to you. And the only reason I'm giving you this is because of that glimpse of the strands that you got from Lauren. She knows something is different. She knows way deep down that she's not the Jarl anymore. Regardless of what anyone may say to her, who they will call her, she's not the leader anymore. Her destiny is now different.
Right.
So the question it felt like you were asking her was, are you going to lead the people as Jarl as you did before?
Right.
She is incapable of doing so. What that would look like, you don't know. She could be a different type of leader. She could still be Jarl with a different destiny, mechanically speaking.
Right.
But she is telling you she can do a thing that she literally cannot do. So it's a subtle little nuance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, she's being untruthful, but you also know why, and you don't know whether that would be good or bad.
Well, if she goes back to like, hey, I'm the Jarl and I'm with your people, the people are going to sort it out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
and then what if they sort wrongly?
So
I'm like,
the worst case scenario is that everything falls into ruin, right? Because she tries to do this thing that she can't do. Best case scenario is that she figures out that she can't rule the way she used to and finds a different path. And then there's a whole range in between, right? So in this moment, you, Ogedi, Protector of the Scalded Hearth, murderer of Bronwyn, Jarl's daughter, we now know.
I didn't murder her. I just let her die.
So say you. you have to decide whether or not you trust the person in front of you to figure out her own path.
I feel that with that's really good. I feel that with Lauren at her side, because he understands this and can also help prompt it, is that I think because he has the confidence he didn't have when we started, is that he's going to be a much more valuable advisor, and she might actually listen, which she wasn't listening before. So so that is my actual feeling of this.
Okay, and as the GM then, I'm going to ask you, because you and Lauren were kind of looking at each other and Rena was kind of looking at the two of you. Are you going to offer your services to Hell?
I will, because to me, I want to save the hold, and I believe that with the relationships that we're building, and with the knowledge and experience and wisdom now of this whole situation that's happened, that I believe it can be successful.
So
We don't have to. The whole curse won't be a shadow any longer.
I would like you to do that in character, please. What do you say to Hell?
All right. Hell, this has been an outstanding debt that we've had for many generations. I know it's not long for you, and for you, looking elf-like over here, but it means a lot that that we honor this bound, this binding that we had with our forefathers, whether we like it or not. And I would like to protect our hold, which, it might not be much for you to think about, but it means the world to us and to our people. And so I volunteer to set aside my powers to take on the mantle and protect my village.
So,
and I'll put my arm out that has my rune just like right here.
I have one question that I will let you all answer first, and then a second one to follow it. The first question is, does anyone say or do anything in character in this moment?
I can still see the Strains of Fate. I just can't invoke on them, right?
You still have a free invocation.
Oh.
There's
okay.
one hanging out there.
Yeah. So what... Can I use that to do a like divination kind of a thing, like to
Sure.
if things wrap in this direction, how does it bode?
Sure. Let me hang on. We moved recently, so I know they're around here someplace.
Supreme sacrifice.
Give me just a moment here.
Sure.
If she would have only listened to us in the beginning.
It would have been a very short campaign then.
True. And we wouldn't be any wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we do this, we save everyone.
I'm a little apprehensive about her, speaking of the Mother Huntress, as honing her or tempering her for all these years. Yeah. I wonder to what purpose. That kind of makes me nervous.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, since we saw it on break, I wore my tree necklace.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Okay. They were right in front of me the whole time. So we will do as we did before, save that we will do a single pull of a single rune, because I don't know the answer to this question. So let's do what seers do. Give you the Foley work there.
Yes.
And a single rune. So I've got it. I'll turn my screen down again. It's flat on my palm. And I'm going to flip it over so I can see that we have...
Oh,
Yeah, let me just double check. I think I know what that one is.
is that Gebo?
No, that is the rune of Nauthiz.
Oh.
And I will...
Is that what we pulled last
Oh,
time?
that's what it was turning. It was the kind of off direction as opposed to.
Yeah, so it is fully arranged the way that it should be. It's not a merc stave or anything.
Right.
So so the rune of Nauthiz...
Put back, because we didn't actually see the rune.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Pull your hand a little bit closer to you. Yeah.
Right
you
there.
go.
There you go. That is Nauthiz. And it means need, desire, or want. So the way that you can interpret this in the moment is that there are going to be desires on all sides of this that are either unfulfilled or are constantly being replaced by another desire. No one is going to quite get what they want out of this situation, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't and that's not necessarily bad. It just means if you are aware of it, it means constant adaptation and trying to take into consideration what desire will come next, and anticipate it and meet it and continue to go down that cycle, right?
Yeah.
And to situate this within the larger context of what's going on, this is Ragnarok. To have constantly changing desires, maybe not the worst thing in the world compared to utter destruction. You know, like when you put, sort of like how what Ogeti said to Hell. From Hell's point of view, the destruction of one holdfast is whatever, but it means a lot to you guys.
Yeah.
So those desires are going to seem meaningful in the moment, but long term, maybe not that hard to fulfill, maybe not that hard to ignore. Small potatoes compared to the bigger picture.
Interesting.
So,
okay. Gosh, yeah. I think that Lurin will just kind of like pull himself to his feet and... So do we know... So the person who accepts the mantle of hell doesn't leave the community. They're going to be in this community, right?
ostensibly,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Can I... Yeah. I'm actually going to go to Ogeti and put my hand on her shoulder and say, "Are you sure about this? It's going to mean an unending season of desires unmet. It will be a struggle for all of us, and Lauren will kind of look over his shoulder at Elsabet, who, like, he was unwilling to defy before, and now, like, seems to almost have, like, derision for, and say, I'm not sure she's worth it.
Well, I look down and point at my rune again, and it's like, I already understand the cold and the death, because that's what the rune entails. So I'm not afraid, and I'm not thinking of her. I'm thinking about our people. And I believe that with good guidance, that it's possible that can spark the desire for her to be a better leader than she was before.
This is I don't know. I'm at, like, I've been hemorrhaging fate points this entire game. I'm out again. But is there any way to, like, I have a thought that it would be kind of cool if her. Can I do anything that would alter the rune scribe's rune? Can we, like, make it match Hell's? Like, was it occluded?
Hell was gonna take care of that herself.
Oh yeah, great.
I figured Hell was gonna reach out and just turn it.
Sort of. Yeah. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if that is the end of the conversation, then Hell sort of sees this and looks you square in the eyes, Ogeti, and says, "It is not what I expected, but very little when dealing with mortals is. I accept." And she reaches out to your arm where the tattoo is, and she puts her hand on it, and she makes a motion like she's picking something up, and in her hand is an icicle. What color ink was the tattoo?
It was blue.
It was blue?
Ice blue.
She has an ice blue icicle in her hand, and you have no tattoo on your forearm any longer. And she looks at it, and then she very deliberately turns it 90 degrees, and she takes it and presses it up against your throat, and you feel cold envelop your throat as your Issa tattoo now stretches along your neck about halfway around, with the points just on either side.
Awesome.
Oriented in her way. She says, "Now you are my voice. Apologies for how that feels."
It's I can handle it. It was to be expected.
As you say that, your voice is totally different.
Ooh.
You speak with the voice of death now. Whatever that sounds like.
Like 4 packs a day kind of voice.
More like the sound of the wind blowing through a cave of icicles, and frost comes out of your mouth when you speak. And then, faster than almost anyone can even see, I think, Rena, you get the best look at it, mainly because she's moving towards something that's at your feet. Hell bends down and picks up the dagger that you used to stab the Jarl, and throws it in between Ogeti and the Jarl and Lurin, and it stabs into the stone seal of the Mother Huntress. Would you be willing to do the honors and describe the entrance of your mother into the scene?
Sure. So the the stone cracks and breaks, and then it almost sort of unfolds, as there's this now just like yawning like emptiness in the ground, and then reaching out from the ground is a like what appears to be a skeleton. And as the skeletal hand reaches and breaks the plane of the ground, flesh begins to reappear and recoalesce and grow in a very like vine-like fashion, filling out the body and the arm as the Mother Huntress ascends.
Very cool.
And she climbs up out of her holding cell, and I think, Rena, you had very few memories of her. When you did, they were a child's memories.
Mm-hmm.
She was beautiful and terrible and an all-encompassing force that was the focus of the entire elven people. She did it as naturally as breathing. And now as she emerges, the word diminished is not accurate because the power is all there, but there's a restraint to it that wasn't present before, and something else that wasn't present before, because she's completely without clothes. She's just standing there in front of everyone, and right above the top of her breasts is a chip of bone that is in the exact same shape and orientation as the tattoo around Ogeti's neck. And as you sort of look at her and take her in, it's almost as if you were running your hand along a smooth pane of glass, and there's a chip in the middle of it that doesn't cut, but it catches your finger. And you knew that if you ran against it the wrong way, you'd be bleeding. But it's the visual and the sensory impression of that. Hell has tempered her, and there is a sharp edge that can be used, but is contained. Just don't brush against it the wrong way.
I think Rena sort of immediately falls into sort of like old pattern and like rushes up to hug her.
And I think
and
your
encounters the bone. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think your mother smiles and embraces you. And as you hold her tight, and I want to do, as a brief aside, because this is going to be a little moment here, I want to do little epilogues for everyone where you can just narrate a little bit of what happens after. But I think this is going to be the closing scene of the game, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
You hug your mother, and she's taller than you are. So that piece of bone is like right, I would say it's right near your cheek, right? The same spot where you held the cloth.
Yeah.
Before you turn your head to the side to like hug your mother, and you feel this nick on your cheek, and you feel the blood begin to sort of run down your face a little bit. And then you feel it get pulled back into you as Bazakor just sort of and absorbs your warmth back into himself.
Nice.
And that's where we'll leave that moment. But in turn, and we can go with whomever would like to go first. I would just like each of you to narrate just a brief little vignette, just a moment in time, somewhere down the road, describing where your character is and what they're doing. Just a snapshot.
I think that Lurin did exactly what Ogedi asked and stayed to be an advisor to this Jarl who was, severed from fate. I think he let her know that had happened and that she was starting from scratch. And fate was probably against her because she's trying to retrace her footsteps. So she needed to, both find a new path and redouble her efforts in order to succeed. And I think he becomes that, scheming, untrusted vizier type, because he's totally committed to making her, reforging her as a new kind of Jarl. And I think that involves, using all of the stunts that get you points of mistrusted and stuff like that. I think that his dedication to the community flows solely through counseling her, and he just resents it so much. But yeah, I think
this is not the kind of forging that you were meant to do, and
No.
yet.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the sort of epilogue snapshot scene is probably Rena and her mother arguing. Rena wanting to take this bold path, this no, we have all of our power, we're you're back now, we can do all of these things. And she is not doing that, and Rena is upset and hurt, and walks out of the clearing.
Okay, good.
I've been wandering. Now I'm a wanderer to go where hell needs me to go, to say what hell needs me to say. And I show up every once in a while to check in, to bring news, to see how the relationships are going, not only within the hold but with our allies, and trying to also be there for our allies for when they need to have a conversation with death, and with understanding our gods and ways and things like that. So I'm just kind of wandering off into the icy sunshine, like what's behind me. Just walking across there.
And I think every time you return to the holdfast, the first time you come back, the left side of your face is drooping a little bit, like you have Bell's palsy, like your mouth doesn't move quite as well and such. And then the next time you come back, there are clumps of hair missing from the left side of your head, and every time you come back, your left side is dying more and more.
Yeah.
And I don't hide it. It's just, who I am.
Wonderful.
A visual reminder of the sacrifices we have made.
And my friends, that's Iron Edda.
Woo!
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tracy.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
That was super fun.
That was great.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of way of thinking about playing an RPG, versus, because I've played so much D&D and I've played Call of Cthulhu and all, with all this, it's just, fail, not fail, and that there's basically anything that you do really kind of falls. And even though you can tell these amazing narrative stories, it's not necessarily collaborative, but this kind of makes it collaborative on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so, and even a little bit more than Fate Core or Fate Accelerated as written. I tried to bake how I do this into Iron Edda Accelerated more so, with really being explicit about asking players to do things and asking players to have moments. And I did a lot more of that tonight than I did a few things tonight that I don't usually do in like say my home group, right?
Mm-hmm.
I there were a few moments where I explicitly I tried to ask for permission, but I explicitly told you what your character thought or felt. And I try not to do that too much because I don't want to remove agency. But in a short run game, it kind of helps to shepherd that a little bit and get things established. And I also don't as much, although I think I'm going to start doing it more often, ask characters for their perception of a scene.
Right.
Where I've provided a framework or even just a few bare details, right? Because I really want to know what your characters are thinking and feeling and what's most important to them in those moments.
Yeah, it's really helpful to visualize where you are in any moment of time within the story.
And I did that more tonight because it had been so long since we played our last session, and I wanted to get everyone grounded and get you thinking through your character's eyes or nose or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down notes about, you know, in case, depending on which way this was all going to go. You know, like the whole thing with Bronwyn and stuff, which didn't go anywhere. But if this was a campaign, then, you know, it's possible that would go on, and that would have come up.
I meant to have Hell summon Bronwyn's corpse back to accompany you. That was a thing that I thought to do, and I totally forgot to do it.
Excellent.
That was going to be one of those things.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask about or say is that the first thing Lurin would do once Hell left the glade was go grab Elspeth by the collar and ask where the rest of the elves were. You really left that hook hanging too. But
yeah, no, they were all hanging back. Like,
yeah, I figured they peeked off their own accord once Hell showed up. Yeah.
The return of the Mother Huntress is not like a small thing.
Yeah.
For the elves, and they didn't know how any of this was going to go, so they were protecting themselves. Cool. They were all effectively with their own trees elsewhere in the Elven Grove.
Good deal.
As concealed as you possibly can be.
Yeah, because that would have been a deal breaker if Elspeth had actually done something. That would it would have changed things dramatically. But
yeah,
very cool.
Your decision to intervene, by the way, from my perspective of trying to knit together things and tossing some stuff out that was, I didn't know what it meant in the moment, but I needed to make it mean something later. Like, you made decisions, you're wanting to cast a spell to like pick up anything about the scene, and that leading to the strands of fate, like that was pivotal. Because I didn't have a resolution for Elspeth at that point in time until you did that, and then it clicked. And then your decision to intervene for her was like, I about died. That was amazing. So you all did such a great job. I really, really appreciate the time and energy that each of you have put into this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting the time and energy you put into this.
Yeah.
Well, on that lovely, happy friend, family, gamer note, I think we will probably wrap things up. This was a bunch of fun. I have the link in the chat. If you guys want to go check out Iron Edda Accelerated, it's fantastic. There's other Destinies in the book that we didn't touch on at all that are so good. Really definitely worth digging into. Heartily recommend it. So go check that out. And as I said, I will be announcing the next series soon. So keep an eye on Twitter for that at Ian Gamesmith. And we want to go back through real quick and remind everybody where they can find you on the internet, and then we'll head out. Tracy, why don't you start this time?
Yeah, you can find me online at The Other Tracy. That's Tracy. It's all jammed together, all one word. Itch.io, or The Other Tracy.itch.io is my itch page for all the small games and everything that I do. And then I have a podcast called The Other Cast, and my Patreon is patreon.com/Tracy Barnett.
Awesome. Donna?
Yeah, I'm easily found. I have one basic launching page, which is about.me/Danicia, DANICIA, which links to my public socials and whatnot. Also, if you're interested in helping support a small con that wants to bring more marginalized people in to enjoy it, you can send us a donation at info@orcacon.org, right on PayPal. Or you can register yourself and donate a membership just by sending me an email.
Awesome. Great. And Adira?
Yeah, I'm Adira Slattery everywhere in real life, according to the government, on the internet. Some places it's shortened to Adira Slat. You can find me on Twitter at Adira Slattery. You can find me on Itch, just my first name, adira.itch.io. Please don't come to my home. But it's reasonably a little too easy to Google. So yeah, cool.
Good deal. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Adira. This was lovely. And I can't wait to play with you guys again soon.
Yay.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.